welcome everybody to round 15, Russia. Russia. Kaput, pachi, kaputapa. And so, yes, basically, Sochi, the former Winter Olympics ground, a fantastic track, probably a Tilka track, so fantastic, maybe an over exaggeration. But nonetheless, a pretty good track, and it certainly provided us an interesting race. So there's plenty to talk about on tonight's show. I'm joined, of course, by the ever the ever Fabio, and welcome, Fabio.
Welcome. I
Good
mean,
job.
I'm the one with the beer, but
Yeah, I may not be quite. I feel like I'm pissed, and I haven't even had a drink yet, unlike you. Still, there you go. Anyway, welcome everybody. So yeah, the Russian Grand Prix, a
Mhm.
fantastic result, a win for Lewis Hamilton. I couldn't be happier. Just let me get that out of the way straight away. A fantastic and superb drive. He skillfully manoeuvred his way to first place via the safety car. And what can we say about that other than great? No, but it was an interesting race, though, nonetheless. There was a few political dilemmas for Ferrari to solve, and they didn't so much solve them as they solved themselves
Yeah.
due to mechanical malfunctions. But basically, Leclerc once again a superb pole position. That Ferrari is really come onto its own, and it seems to be the best car on the grid now. I'm not surprised, of course, but nonetheless, that's how it goes. Vettel not making the most of the package, it has to be said. He seems to be still only on par with Lewis Hamilton at best, and that is surprising. So a superb pole position, a superb second position by Lewis, I have to say, considering that his car
Yes.
presumably is not that great compared to the Ferrari. But again, Lewis outperforming the car and bringing it home to a fantastic second place on pole, behind pole position. Then Vettel doing his level best to try and keep up with Leclerc, and then Bottas, I think, and then a few others behind him. Okay, so the race gets underway, and as usual at Sochi, it's a tow down to the first corner. Ferrari have a plan for Vettel to be towed down to the first corner so he can overtake Hamilton.
Mhm.
And then presumably the plan was that if Vettel then managed to overtake Leclerc, that Leclerc would get the place back, having given him the tow down there. This worked perfectly off the line, I have to say. I mean, it was, again, superb tactics by Ferrari to overcome Hamilton in second place, not allowing him any kind of tow.
Yeah.
Lewis didn't even get a tow at all. And so even the fourth or fifth place man, which was Sainz, managed to almost overtake him. If it
Mhm.
wasn't for Lewis's outbraking him into the first corner, then he would have lost that place as well. Nonetheless, Vettel managed to get past Leclerc in the first corner and then start pulling away.
Yeah.
Again, clever tactics by Vettel again, right? Knowing that the plan was to swap back again. Of course, you can't swap a car if it's not directly behind you. So Vettel knows this and therefore just drove his little socks off and presumably drove the tyres out as well. And managed to pull away from Leclerc. To the point where Leclerc wasn't able to get close enough to even swap the positions back. It's a fair tactic, been played many times in Formula One before, so not unexpected. And I feel Leclerc was a little naive there on the radio, kept asking to swap the positions back, and every time he got a message back as to the gap, it was extending, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.6. And so there was no way that he could catch Vettel for some reason. Of course, the reason being is the car behind has a distinct disadvantage on tyres,
Yeah.
and isn't able to keep close to the car in front, especially this generation of Formula One cars. So he was at a disadvantage. Maybe Lewis is the only one that can do that at the moment. We don't know, but nonetheless, a good race up to that point. Lewis just hung on as best he could. Oh, and I've got somebody calling at the door, so I'm going to have to pass this over to Fabio. Basically, I'll leave it with you, with Lewis just hanging on grimly to the tail of the Ferraris as they put away. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so the tactic was the one that Simos described, and to be fair, it was the only tactic possible in Russia. We saw last year how it works. There is a long straight, so they figured it out, and they knew that Vettel was going to be in front because of the toll. Leclerc was a little bit naive because he kept asking, to be switched at the beginning, which I think that they were right in not giving away the position at the moment. There would have been plenty of time with the pit stop and all other moments in the race to, switch positions. So I think there was nothing wrong in there. Leclerc pushed a little bit on the radio for, I would say, political reasons. He wants to be, the number one driver, and that's one way to send the message, as you say. He almost, I would say that he almost ruined his race by trying to do that. Vettel, couldn't be bothered to give him position at the beginning, and Leclerc trying to pass him at the beginning, he almost cooked his tires, so he almost ruined his race. So in that, from that point of view, I agree that it wasn't the best tactic to follow at the beginning of the race. And then shit happened. Vettel lost I think it was the K engine of the K part of the engine, and he was forced to stop. Safety car got in, and Lewis won the race. He got in the pit on the safety car. He lost 40% less of the time in the pit because of the safety car, and he won the race. There is really nothing. There is not too much to say about it. So yeah, that's it. I don't know if he's back. I don't think so.
I am. I'm just getting my breath back there.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, no, I was just to the point, that Vettel, basically had his, breakdown in the engine, and safety car stepped in. Lewis got in the pit. They saw the chance, they took it, and he basically won the race. I said that I agree with you that Leclerc was a little bit naive in asking for the switch of the position at the beginning. Regardless of what has happened later on, I think that was the right call from Ferrari not to switch position at the beginning. It would have been too soon. Lewis was too close, regardless of the fact that Vettel pushed, and rightly so. And so I think that Leclerc was a mix of being a little bit young and naive and wanted, to switch position at the very beginning. He almost ruined his race because he followed for a while. He followed Vettel too close. He almost cooked his tires. So, and his radio messages, I think they were more political rather than being seriously concerned. He knew full well that there would have been plenty of time during the race, to switch position at the pit or whatever. It would have been pointless to slow down a car in front, even because you never know what's going to happen, right? The Vettel broke the engine, but if it would have been Leclerc, it would have been stupid, to change position at the beginning. So there is plenty of time. So it made that. I think it made it, to further push his position in the team. But
yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. I think also, they did manage to switch. They did manage to switch position, of course, and they did it in the pit stops. But they left Vettel out to dry for a couple of laps, I think, longer than they needed to. And that, I think, was as a result of Leclerc maybe on the radio early on going, oh, when are we going to switch? When are we going to switch? And to be fair, I'm not sure you're right with that estimation of Ferrari making that call. I think it was Vettel that made the call not to switch. Ferrari kept saying to Leclerc, okay, come on now. Yeah, Seb's going to let you through next lap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, you're
yeah,
right. Yeah.
close up. And then they'd get on to Zeb on the radio and say, okay, let Leclerc pass. And he would just say, well, he's not close enough,
Right.
So,
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think it was a mix. Of course, Vettel he pushed on purpose at the first laps of the race, but I mean, you can't hardly blame the guy, right? I mean, for two reasons. First of all, is a racing driver in an F1 car, so they're paid to go fast. I think that the pace that he got at the beginning caught a little bit everybody by surprise. And I mean, it's no secret that it would not have been happy to switch position at the beginning. But all in all, I think, it turned out to be, something more sensible rather than giving position at the beginning. So
I completely agree.
yeah.
And again, Zeb, was well within his rights. It's
Right.
a known thing that you can't really just slow down a second on a lap just to let somebody pass. You know what I mean? That's not a done thing in Formula One.
Yeah. But I mean, there is also the fact that, okay, think about it. You are in front of the race, right? You know that there's been talk before because of the tactic at the start that eventually you're going to give away the position. You got a chance to make good laps to put yourself on the spotlight. I mean, fuck, they're going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it came to the failure of the engine, the Ferrari engine, or not the engine, I would say the power unit.
Yeah.
What did we think about that? Because is this a significant failure? Do you think for Ferrari? The
I
Ferrari
don't know.
power unit?
I haven't. I mean, I looked for it, but I haven't found any precise info. I didn't look too much, to be totally fair. I know that it was the K part of the engine which failed, so the hybrid part, and I thought it was really interesting to see the procedure that they followed when Vettel got out of the car. I don't know if you noticed that he stand up on the car and he jumped outside the car without touching the feet, because when it's the K part, you're afraid there might be something, wrong with the battery pack. So you want the driver. There is a procedure in order for you to dismantle for the car so that you don't get a shock if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, K part failures, are they related to heat? I think they are, aren't they? Because we're talking about the turbo, the heat exchange on the turbo here.
I don't think it was related to heat. I think that of all, I mean, maybe. I don't know. Of all the cars in the track, Vettel was the car which was less heated than everybody else.
Well, maybe so. My theory would be like this, though, Fabio. My theory, and this is the conspiracy theory I'm talking about here.
Okay.
So it's about as valid as Trump taking over the world with his super Nazi army. Right. But nonetheless, I'm thinking, well, look, Vettel pushed the car at the beginning too much, maybe, to get away from Leclerc in order to avoid the swap straight away. And also, when he came into the pits, of course, he was stationary in the pits, and it broke soon after the pits. So maybe, and just it's maybe only, maybe it was to do with that he pushed the car too hard at the beginning on too high a power setting and cooked his own engine.
I honestly don't know what happened to the engine, so I have no idea what the causes were. So, and it seems to be I can't find any news, even because that. I mean, there's some kind of failures that are really hard to figure out on the spot, unless it's something, in your face, like a turbo blowing up. You see a big puff of smoke. Usually what happens is that, the engine is sent back to the factory, analyzed, and then sent back to, whatever needs to be sent back.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah.
And this, the K part of the engine is the most touchy, really, of the most finely balanced. That's the thing that when the hybrid engine first came in the first year, that was the thing that had the most issues. In fact, in the
Right.
second year,
Right.
mainly because they were having problems spinning a turbo up that
Yeah.
fast. That
So
it,
I honestly don't know if it's a heat problem. Mostly because of the fact, usually if it's a heat problem, there is a mechanical failure, which it didn't seem to be the case. There were
mm,
no signs, no smoke, no vapor, nothing. So
yeah,
I suspect mostly an electronic failure, like in
yeah,
an ECU or some cabling or stuff like that. But I mean, that's just speculation. I have no idea.
yeah.
So.
Okay, so you don't think it was a piston going through the electronics box then?
No, no, no. I
Okay.
think I can easily say that that was the case. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I'm just going back a few years to something Martin Brundle said, but
Right.
nonetheless, we'll let that go. Okay, so onward then to the all-conquering and incredibly dynamic Mercedes team. Not that I'm biased, but Lewis, the fantastic driver Hamilton, winning the race. Again, you've got to say Mercedes hung in there. Lewis especially hung in there, doing his
Yeah.
best in order to be in a position to take advantage if something happened. They ran the harder tyre, the medium tyre to start with, which was a bit of a surprise, I have to say, against Ferrari soft. So they were planning to go longer.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe they figured the only way, because of the lack of pace of the car
Right.
compared to the Ferrari, maybe they just figured, well, this was going to be the only way to win the race. So,
Maybe I don't know. I mean, you do remember some races ago when I said that it was unfair to say that Lewis was lucky because the way it
mm,
is, even if there have been some let's call them incidents, or way that the race went. I was the first one to say that it was unfair to say that Lewis was lucky, but I think that you will agree with me that uh, even if I keep saying that it's not luck, uh, we can definitely say that Lewis is not unlucky,
right, right.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's put it this way: if I went to a casino with
Yeah,
Lewis, I
yeah.
would bet exactly the same way he does.
Yes, yes. I might lose anyway, but chances are I will not lose as much as I would.
Exactly.
Right.
And that in this case is because Mercedes made the contingency plan, knowing, I think, that their car wasn't going to be as fast in the first stint, that they weren't going to be able to keep up with Ferrari, and the best thing would be to go long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it paid off because they were lucky, no doubt about that. But then they put themselves in the position to be lucky, and that's the key
Of
thing.
course. Yeah.
And that's why, again, Lewis manages to clinch the titles that others might not.
Right.
And the same for other drivers. Schumacher was also the same. He would put himself in a position to
Right.
win the race where others just had no idea. So and Prost is an example, and
Hmm.
who else? There's many drivers that have
Yeah.
done that over the years.
Damon Hill, in a way, maybe.
Yeah, I think well, the Damon Hill had the best car for 2 years
Yeah.
running, so
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
maybe that wasn't so lucky, and
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
and maybe that was the case that you're saying. He just
Right.
wasn't unlucky that year,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, or the second year, I should say. So, but I remember that I think it was maybe '98 or somewhere around there. I remember I think it was Japan even.
Yeah.
Um, Damon coming around the last corner and Murray Walker bursting into tears because Damon had finally done it. Oh, high emotion when you get the
Mm.
commentator bursting into tears.
Yeah.
But that was Murray Walker. What a fantastic man. Anyway, moving on. Valtteri played a good backup number 2, as always.
Yeah.
He drove a good race. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He did the best with his car, etc. And he was right there. If Lewis had faltered, he would have won the race, no doubt about it. So
He
he
did.
played a superb number 2, a great result for Mercedes because of Bottas.
He did what he's
Um,
paid to do.
he did, yeah, he did. well, yeah. He kept up with Lewis. That's the thing. He hung on to Lewis's tail, and that not a lot of drivers can do that. So
No, no. I'm the first one. When I go to a restaurant, I appreciate the food, but I'm the first one to appreciate a good service. So if I need a glass of wine, I appreciate the butler which brings me a glass of wine at the right moment, without being too obtrusive. So I honestly appreciate a good butler with a service.
oh, that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. Okay, yeah. So again, yes, Bottas served the bottle well for Lewis,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and we can't argue with that. There was a lot of good drives through the field. I would mention Albon, and Norris. I felt was a bit unlucky.
Yes.
Sainz drove a great race.
Yeah.
Ricardo got unlucky again, mainly due to the back markers. Stroll had a shocker. I think Stroll moved across on someone, maybe Magnussen.
Yeah.
I think it was Magnussen or maybe Hulkenberg. He just moved across the track straight into his path when he was being overtaken. It was a shocking bit of driving, really, and it's the first time I've seen Stroll make such a bad move on track. Normally, he's very respectful. He's obviously feeling the pressure from his teammate Perez, who again was very consistent,
Yes.
like the old Perez of old. So clearly, he's got to grips with his car, the Racing Point. Yeah.
Grosjean was unlucky. I mean, this time he went to the wall, but it wasn't his fault. I mean, to be totally fair.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't
I
his
mean,
fault.
it wasn't the
Again,
outside.
I don't know whether it was his fault or not, because there was definitely a huge gap between him and the car on the inside.
Yeah.
He could have said to himself, "Why is there such a huge gap?"
Okay. Let me put it this way: considering how prone Grosjean is to crash into the walls, that if it happens in a way that is not his fault 100%, I would say it's not his fault. You know?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
You know?
Okay. Well, Grosjean was unlucky to have a wall hit
Yes.
him.
Yes. That was. Yeah,
Just
lucky guy was Giovinazzi when he got put in a sandwich between.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I thought Giovinazzi did not make too much of a mistake there. He put his car into a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
gap, right? And
Yeah.
he was the one braking hard to get out the way.
Right.
That's why I was kind of like, well, fucking Grosjean again. He's done it again. There's a
Yeah.
car down his inside, and he's still going to take the corner.
Mm-hmm.
He had room not to take that corner
Yeah.
and avoid the accident. And he didn't. He chose to try and take the corner and go, oh, I didn't see anybody there.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
yeah, okay, but you didn't see anybody. But that's because you weren't looking. Number one, you
Right.
didn't ask yourself. You didn't ask yourself, well, why is there such a big gap between me and the guy on the inside? Why is he taking such an inside line?
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's because there's a car coming down. And then secondly, Grosjean could have seen those wheels, because at one point Giovinazzi's wheels were alongside his cockpit.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have seen that, really.
Yeah.
So again, I'm putting the blame on Grosjean yet again.
Oh yeah, sure. Of course. I mean, I'm just saying that it wasn't his fault in a way that it is usually his fault.
Usually,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's still crap. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I expect a higher standard from Formula One drivers, and especially a Formula One driver that's been in the business as long as Grosjean has.
Mm-hmm.
But he's never been any different, I have to say. I remember that first accident at Spa, I think it was, where he decided to take Lewis out on the inside and cause like 3 of the major runners in the content championship to crash, you know what I mean? And then flew over the top of somebody else's car.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
I think it's a tactic from Grosjean. I mean,
I would love to say yes. Let me put it that way.
Okay, let's put it this way. If his goal is to have his name on all the papers the following day,
yeah, let's put it this way: this guy crashes more than Verstappen does.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and that's saying something. But the thing is, he doesn't stop doing it, and then that's the issue. And again, for me, no, you're not going to ever get that much room on a Formula One track into the third corner. So to think that there was nobody there, that I had plenty of room, yeah, it's just about as naive as you can get.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, there you go. I mean, this happens. Kimi had a bad first lap as well,
Yeah.
which kind of ruined his race. Albon was from the pit lane though. He had a great result as always, coming back through the field. It's amazing with Albon how he takes a little time on race day to get going, but
Yeah.
when he does, he's pretty damn fast. He's at least as
Yes.
fast as Verstappen, so that's good to see. And maybe that's due to the fact that these are new tracks for him and he's in his rookie year, but it's damn impressive nonetheless.
Yeah. Kvyat made a nice race too, if I remember correctly. No, but I just want to say one thing about Grosjean before we leave the subject. I know at least one person which is happy the way that Grosjean drives, and it's Maldonado, because everybody has forgot about the guy now.
Yeah, well, I was thinking Hulkenberg, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Also,
Hulkenberg.
because Hulkenberg might actually get his place next year if he keeps
Yeah.
crashing like this. Just because
Uh-huh.
they've got a contract doesn't mean they're going to keep it, But anyway, there you go. We'll have to see what happens.
So yeah,
Um,
Kvyat made a nice race.
yeah.
I'm super impressed with the McLaren. I think it's a very nice car. Talking about McLaren, they made a press release that they're going to ride with the Mercedes engine next year, from next year on.
2021, I thought it was. Next year
Oh,
is Renault
2020.
again.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah.
That's all right. Yep. And the year after is Mercedes. So yeah, that's good news for McLaren, of course, because of course 2021 are all the new rules coming in.
Mhm.
So the engine's going to be crucial in that year. I mean, they'll all be pretty much of a muchness, and presumably the rules will be set to not to advantage the engine manufacturers so much.
Yeah.
But in Formula One, having a good power unit is one of the keys to being consistent through the year. So
I was thinking about the fact that next year might be a really interesting year, because that because of the fact that the rules are going to change in 2021, I'm not expecting a lot of development made on the cars, right? So if there is a team which decides, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to spend a huge amount of money anyway, even if it's for a project that is going to be scratched, and basically I have to make two cars in 2020, because one is going to be the one for 2021. That might be, don't you think so? It might be an interesting approach by someone which has not too much to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. McLaren have said that they're changing the direction of the car next year, and they're going to develop a new car, presumably in preparation for 2021. Now the rules are becoming more firm, and they know the actual direction. So that's going to be quite interesting. And I do believe they're a team that have got the resources and the finance to be able to afford to do that. Whether it'll pay off for them or not, they've got such a good car this year. Maybe they're tempting fate by doing that.
Right.
But maybe they've seen the writing on the wall with the way Ferrari have gone this year, and maybe that's what they're planning to do, is make the car a little more slippery with less maximum downforce and a greater efficiency, greater downforce efficiency.
Yeah, but I think that the effects of the 2021 rules changing, I think that we're going to see the effects even this year, meaning that I think that there is not going to be any major development on the cars until the end of the year. They stopped way before, because everybody is basically designing two new cars, right?
Yeah.
Next year, one to test some stuff and the other one to race the championship. And so I think that unless somebody has got something else, prepared, there won't be too much further development on the cars right now, except us, maybe, because fuck those guys. We have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
They're doing,
right?
yeah.
they might be racing with a car which was 3 years old.
Yeah, although I have to say that Magnussen said the car was a lot better this race, and
Yes, yes.
he was much excited or enjoyed the improvement. I think Mercedes aren't going to stop this year. They're going to keep developing the car because they're not going to let Ferrari get too far ahead.
Yeah. No, but
So
I think that the pace is going to be a little bit more slow. You know what I mean. They have a lot.
yeah,
They have
maybe.
a lot to cook, for 2021. So
Sure. I don't think it's going to slow the top teams down. They've got too much manpower and money to throw at the problems. And as Mercedes are going to just bring as many upgrades as they can before the end of the year in preparation for next year anyway. Because you're right, the cars aren't going to change too much for next year.
yeah.
At least in the design intent anyway. The only people saying they're going to change their cars are Williams and McLaren. So
I mean, of
yeah,
all the teams that they have no interest in putting more money this year, I can totally see Mercedes not doing that because they already basically won the championship. There is no incentive in putting more money this year. Ferrari has showed what they can do, and now they have a pretty good car. I think maybe Red Bull might have some trick up his sleeve. They might want to try to do something, especially next race, which is in Japan. Even if the big super duper engine for Japan, which was this weekend engine, didn't show up to be as fast as the one that we saw, for example, in Spa and in Monza.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's gonna be...
Well, they all took engine penalties this race. That should also be said, in order to give themselves a fresher engine for next race.
Yeah,
which is of course their home race. So not really surprising there. I would disagree. I would say Mercedes will keep throwing money at this year's car until they actually catch Ferrari back up again, because they don't want to get too far behind. And they will be looking at this slicker downforce approach, more efficient but less maximum downforce approach. At least they'll have something for the fast tracks. So again, I think Japan is going to be quite an exciting race, as the cars should be fairly even between Ferrari and Mercedes. And
Japan is an old style circuit, so we'll see what happens. Because so far we see. So I mean, Spa and Monza, which were really particular, and people were not that hugely surprised by Ferrari. Singapore was a big shock because that wasn't the kind of circuit that people thought that Ferrari was going to be doing so well. And Sochi too, if you look, to the qualifying. So yeah, I mean, Japan is going to be really interesting because we got to see if they really got a good basis, as I think they have now.
yeah,
I will see.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Agree. It will be a fascinating race at Japan, which is in 2 weeks' time.
13th of October. Yeah,
just for those that want to know. But yeah, I think also just going through the rest of the pack, I also think that the midfield is so close that there'll be a temptation for those that can afford it to keep developing their car just to stretch their legs towards the end of the season now. So I think Racing Point may turn up with some more upgrades. I think Haas are probably doomed and have just put everything into next year's car now anyway, knowing that this year's car just can't be fixed. So I think they'll drop back. Red Bull, I can't see why they would want to keep developing the car this year. It doesn't make sense for them to do it. Mercedes, I think I would disagree with you slightly, and I would say no, they will keep developing their car right to the end of the year this year. They put the money in the budget to do that. Maybe they won't be doing it as hard as they would if it was a close championship, but still they'll not want to drop too far behind Ferrari, and they'll want some kind of lower downforce settings in order to at least try and up the game and make the car a little more efficient if they can. But there again, maybe they'll be relying on engine upgrades. I don't know. So there's two possibilities there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, they can't possibly lose the championship, so they're going to be a little more relaxed. You know what I mean? Hello, still there? Oops, have I lost you? So there seems to be some problems. I think we lost Simos. And he's the one which can make the stream go online and offline. So that is going to be really interesting to see what happens. Let's see if I can get in touch with the guy. Yeah, and now it seems to be it's only me, which that I can stop the show. So it's going to be fun. I think this stream is going on like forever, I think. So what else? The race is going to be the 13th of October in Japan. Beautiful circuit. I think it's the only one which is left, which is it's an 8 circuit. I really have no idea what I can say. So, well, anyway, so I don't think Samus is going to come back. Well, we'll see you, whoever is going to watch this one, this shambles, in a couple of weeks, and talk to you some other time. Cheers.